Koch Foundation is well known for using its money to influence elections, but it also has other ways of swaying individuals to vote for candidates that go along with their political ideology. So Charles Koch has actually expanded his political influence through using consumer data that the Koch Foundation has collected to push very targeted ads toward individuals who might believe things like migrants are coming, they're dangerous, we need to look out for them. In fact, they have a whole organization known as I360, which not only collects this consumer data, but uses it to target individuals with these types of ads. This was reported on by Li Fong over at The Intercept, excellent reporting as always. And it profiles Marsha Blackburn's Senate race in Tennessee and how she won. So let me give you the details. Koch sprawling political networks in-house technology company has mined consumer data to motivate Republican voters with dehumanizing messages that depict immigrants as an invading army of criminals and potential terrorists. Marsha Blackburn's anti-immigrant ads were distributed using an empirical approach to motivating Republican voters. The Blackburn campaign had turned to Koch's I360 campaign or company to develop a series of custom predictive models to peel Republican voters away from her opponent, Phil Bredesen. Now, as we know, she unfortunately won in that Senate race. But to give you an idea, Americans for Prosperity, the primary political advocacy arm of the Koch network, spent $5.6 million to support Blackburn's Senate run through its nonprofit and super PAC arm. Now, with that said, Marsha Blackburn hires I360 to help her out. She realizes, oh, there's some portion of Tennessee Republicans who are anti-immigrant, that motivates them, that's their passion. And so we need to target our ads to them. And so she starts using these completely inaccurate ads about her political opponent to push the message out. We're gonna show you a compilation of some of those ads in this next clip. Take a look.
A caravan of 14,000 illegal immigrants is marching on America. But Phil Bredesen?
A few thousand very poor people is not a threat.
Phil Bredesen gave driver's licenses to illegal immigrants.
It was Phil Bredesen who, quote, lured illegal immigrants to Tennessee.
Gang members, known criminals, people from the Middle East, possibly even terrorists.
Phil Bredesen opposes the Trump immigration ban.
Phil Bredesen, he won't stop illegal immigration because he lured it.
Phil Bredesen, dangerously wrong for Tennessee. Marsha Blackburn will stand with Trump to build the wall and stop the caravan.
So I can't help myself, I gotta do at least one fact check before we open this up about I360. But Bredesen was actually the one who did away with what the previous Republican governor did with handing driver's licenses to undocumented immigrants. It was actually a Republican governor who did that. Bredesen gets elected and he scrapped it. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. He didn't win, Marsha Blackburn won. And there are consequences to that, because she's a terrible person, so.
Yeah, and this is why I think worrying about the Russia disinformation campaign is a little myopic, right? Because it is an issue, it's a big issue, but disinformation like this, paid for by super PACs and people with a lot of money, who now the Supreme Court says that this is speech when it's actually propaganda, that's as big of a problem, if not bigger, as just as big of a problem, or a bigger problem is what I meant. Because really, when all of these semi-legitimate big donors are able to fund these information arms and target people specifically from within the country with less covertness, they're still able to do just as much damage, and it's terrifying. People genuinely now believe that Phil Bredesen was like doing this with driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. So
yeah, it would be cool if people had any ability whatsoever to see an ad and know whether it's true or not, to care, to fact check it, but people don't have those defenses.
And we know it's interesting because we have laws against false advertising when it comes to companies. I mean, they still find ways to be misleading, but when it comes to political ads, you can just straight up lie. You can say anything you want.
Yeah,
because it's just speech.
That's the Trump rallies. And we know that Facebook, which is a big source of this sort of stuff, they're not gonna do anything. They don't care. They're making tons of money off of it. I've had Judd Legum on multiple times. He's been doing analyses of Trump's campaign spending on Facebook, and he's just violating the terms of service left and right. They don't do anything. Doesn't matter, because they're spending millions of dollars and Facebook wants that money. So they're not gonna do anything, and people don't have the psychological guards necessary to not realize that they're being manipulated. People get radicalized with they have no idea that they're being manipulated in the way that they are. Someone will start watching Alex Jones because it's a little bit funny, and then 2 years later, they really think that frogs are being turned gay. Like you don't know when you start watching a show what damage it can do to you or where it can take you in the end.
Yeah, and these large companies that are tech giants online. I mean, that's why I think what Elizabeth Warren did at the outset of her campaign was so important. And I went to one of her rallies and covered it in the area where Amazon was supposed to be, where she talked about breaking up big tech, because these companies, especially Facebook, and when we're talking about disinformation, have a monopoly over all of this information that is being consumed, and people think it's gone through some filtration process when it actually hasn't. They should be regulated as public utilities as opposed to these free-flowing mega corporations like they are, because they control the revenue streams for a lot of companies, some political companies as well, media companies, and there's no regulation on what the content is.
When it comes to the right wing, we have to really pay attention to strategy and how well organized they are, because with the Koch brothers, like just focusing on them alone, you have, of course, the campaign funding, there's the money, but it's a multi-pronged approach. They go into universities and they donate billions of dollars to get, the science department to not only put their name on their buildings, but it influences the science department in a way. So they're focusing on education. They're focusing on these disinformation campaigns and these very targeted ads through, by the way, data that they're mining through our consumer habits, which is also pretty terrifying. They've contracted with the Dish Network in order to collect some of this data. So they're working with other corporations in order to do this. So it's a very well thought out, multi-pronged approach in order to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Then you have the Federalist Society that for decades has been pushing the right wing to stack the courts with conservative judges against our best interests. So I mention all this because the left needs to get its ish together, okay? Like we need to think not only policy-wise, but strategically. What is the best path forward? How can we get organized? How can we take a step back for a second and stop with the, hey, let's police this language because this is the most important thing we want to do at this very moment, and instead focus on, hey, how do we get the right people elected? The right people who actually want to stand for the policies that we want to accomplish, right? Like I think that we get distracted by things too easily. That's just my take. We have to pay close attention to how they organize on the other side, because they're better at it than we are.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.